There is plenty to talk about in the Western Pacific today. Now, we don't have any one particular named strong typhoon type storm, but we have multiple areas of low pressure west and east of the Philippines, even all the way out here towards Guam and the Mariana Islands, increasing rainfall there for you as well. In fact, this is the Japan Meteorological Agency's 48-hour analysis, and you can see that low towards the west, a new tropical depression forming off the northeast coast of Luzon, and then you got that other low well back towards the east. So these are the main takeaways I want you to take away from this update. And then we're going to get into the details. This is going to be over 5 minutes long, breaking stuff down. But an overall increase in rainfall for the Philippines with that low towards the west and east. You got this big trough set up overhead. That means a lot of afternoon thunderstorms. A stronger storm is possible later this week, and I'll show you what the guidance is showing for that. But even with that said, even if we don't see landfalling full-on typhoon, you got to be ready for more flooding because of that instability, already saturated grounds, in an increase in the Habagat, or just in general additional rainfall in the forecast. As always, I'm meteorologist Robert Speta. Let's break down what we got going on out here today. And, just to define this low-level center of a low towards the west and east, because you're probably thinking, where do you see these lows, Robert? Some people say, you're just making this up. All right, let's take a look at actually ASCAT imagery analysis. Now, this is basically satellite-derived winds. What we see is the polar orbiter satellite goes from south to north around the Earth. It loops around and it gets these little swath. Only works over the water because it takes a detection of where the waves are and what the direction the waves are going. So we can see right here, look at this, just off the west coast of Palawan, there is a circulation right in there. That's our low towards the west. And then we got another low towards the east. You can see the circulation just off the beat call area. So this stretches across and it creates just this vast amount of vorticity, positive vorticity, I should say. You can see it right there, indicating upward vertical motion, instability, and scattered showers. So that's the big topic I personally and humbly believe over the upcoming week. Now, these areas towards the east, well, they could develop into something. In fact, you could take a look at some of the ensembles showing this area just off the Bicol region pulling towards the north and passing just off the northeast coast of Luzon, while this other area around Guam even tracks off towards the north and towards the west. These are based on the ECMWF, by the way, but you can even compare that up with the GFS spaghettios, and we can see basically that first low developing and moving off towards northern areas of Luzon, and then you get that secondary low trying to kick off towards maybe even southern areas of Japan. It basically, this guidance tells me it's running into a bit of a trough, and that's why the lows kind of spread like that. So long range, that tells me there's a lot of uncertainty as far as where this could go, if it could impact Japan. But I think the key thing we have to take away from this is that there is definitely that increase in confidence of multiple areas of low pressure developing and maybe even some named storms. And just in general, even if we did see a low towards the north and east of Luzon, it would enhance the Habagat, or that southwesterly flow. So yeah, once again, the satellite imagery looks like a big fat mess out there right now. But you have to remember that is just that broad area of instability. And we can even see that here if we take a look at our high resolution guidance, courtesy of Metro Weather's Weatherscape. Great software, by the way, if you're looking into getting some meteorology forecasting, where you got the low here, you got another low just towards the north and east of Luzon, and then you got another low out there. And that just creates that broad swath of instability. Now, this one that could form off north in Luzon, I think that very well could become a named storm, maybe even a tropical depression, as I mentioned earlier, value JMA. But I think the key thing is that it would be working in tangent with this other low off towards the west and increasing the southwesterly flow for the west coast of Luzon, and that includes places like Region 1, where on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to continue to see that flow kick in just like that. Meanwhile, you got that secondary low developing back towards the east, and that could be yet another storm system. Boy, there's a lot going on here, right? It's hard to just pinpoint. I had somebody in the comments the other day say, Robert, you sound like you're just all over the place. And reality is, I am. It's hard to kind of follow each one of these, and this is why it sounds like I'm all over it, but I think the common theme continues to be this broad trough. Don't think of these storms as individual areas of low pressures, albeit that's what they are. Think of them as one large area of low pressure. Basically, by Friday and the Saturday, you're going to have a low just like this. All right. And with that low, you're going to see the inflow of rain bands wrapping around and hitting the west coast of Luzon. Of course, in the center, shipping traffic and closer to these is bad, you know. But I think that if you look at it as a whole versus individual areas of low pressure, you can really get a good idea of the atmospheric flow around this and how it is just going to be dominating the forecast. Just like that. You can see where the heaviest of the rains are going to be basically flowing around this just broad low. So, yeah, it's a lot, but I think especially for northwestern Luzon, you're going to see this increase in precip. In general, it's just going to be wet out there. There's very little to get around that. That's the theme. It is, and especially into the afternoon hours. And I don't think any part of the Philippines or even over towards the Indochina Peninsula will be spared from this. Most people are going to be looking at those scattered showers that could become heavy at times, maybe even some flooding rains, and especially here for northern areas of Luzon. Also, by the way, I know we got a lot of people that watch from there. I'll give you a little shout out to our friends in Siargao. You know, even here on our Wednesday, you got some thunder, a little bit of wind, but afternoon showers are going to be dominating. And I like looking at the 5-day because yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the Thursday. It's not till Friday and the Saturday. If we do see that other area of low pressure try to develop towards the north and the east of Luzon, it actually could overall lift a lot of this moisture back towards the north. And we can even see that here if we take a look at some of our long-range guidance, specifically with the GFS. Let's look ahead into Friday. And yeah, you can see kind of that river of moisture trying to develop. It develops that system moving out towards Okinawa, and it kind of pulls the bulk of the moisture further towards the north across northern areas of Luzon, and it backs off for southern areas of Mindanao here, southern Philippines for that matter. But you know, that always comes at a price, right? So you see the moisture further towards the north, less here, but it just really depends on where that river of moisture kind of sets up here. So oh boy, plenty going on as always, and try my best to inform, educate, and make sure you all are just kind of weather aware. The problem with a storm like this too is that we do have multiple areas of low pressure. The people that are watching this are weather aware. You clicked on this video, I know you're already ahead of the game. But the issue is that this is not, if these don't get named even by Pagasa, and then on top of that, a lot of it's not even a tropical storm or a typhoon. We do have heavy rainfall warnings. I think it's more of it's not a cultural thing, I guess so. And this is not just a Philippine thing. This is the same issue when I worked in Japan, in the United States, is that you hear just areas of low pressure and you shrug it off. I get it. A lot of people even comment on these videos saying, well, we're used to it. Yeah. But you can fall into a trap if you get into that mindset. So just make sure, you know, people around you know it's going to rain. It could be flooding. I mean, we even seen that in Manila. We didn't have a named storm, but we had serious flooding in Manila. I know flood control is also an equation that goes into this. But it's one of those things where I think people can just be caught a little bit off guard if they're just thinking we're used to it, whatever. Shut up, redhead. Anyways, hey, if you have any other questions, though, please let me know. I'm always here for it. I like answering a lot of your questions. I like hearing from you. In fact, one of our last questions on our last video was somebody was asking, what's the difference anyways between a typhoon and a hurricane? And remember, the international date line, 100 degrees west of 100 degrees, it is a typhoon. East is a hurricane. Somebody else asked me, well, why do they call it a typhoon? It's because out here in the Western Pacific, from the Philippines to Japan, we've been tracking typhoons for as long as it's been around, right? And especially in Japan, they call it a typhoon. Just because foreigners showed up and they want to call it a hurricane doesn't mean that's going to change. That's why the nomenclature is different. It's basically where the words originated in different languages. Fun fact, that's all. Anyways, if you have any other questions, though, I would love to hear from you. Number one thing, as always, though, is stay safe out there. Okay, friends?